Hi guys, so today I want to talk to you a little bit about hyperhidrosis, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically excessive sweating that happens for no reason at all, and I have suffered from it for a long time. And I just wanted to tell you guys my story about it and what it's like to have it. But it only seems fitting if I do this outside so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So let's take this outdoors. Much better. Now, if you've seen any of my videos that I film outside, and I literally mean any, you've probably already seen my sweating problem or seen me talk about it. And in fact, I'm already glistening a little bit and I just got out there. How lovely. And she's already starting to show up on my shirt too. So anyways, like I was talking about, hyperhidrosis is basically where you just sweat an excessive amount for no frickin' reason. Now there's two types. There's the type where you sweat in like a specific location. Usually it's your hands, it's your armpits, your feet, whatever. You just sweat a lot in one location. Fortunate little me, have the one where you sweat from head to toe nonstop. Now, there is no cure that I know of really yet. There are some treatments and we'll get to talking about those later. But for now, I just want to tell you my story. So I really feel like my problem is hormonal, and I've actually had a dermatologist since then tell me that she also believes it's hormonal because I didn't start having this problem until after I hit puberty. I grew up in California in a hot climate, so it wasn't unusual for me to be in warm weather. And when I was a kid, I just sweat normal, but it was like as soon as I started my period, I just all of a sudden was sweating like crazy. And I specifically would sweat a lot in my armpits when I was younger. That was like really where I would sweat a lot. I kind of sweat head to toe, but the armpits were just like next level. And that was the first place I used to sweat. So I want to say age 15 is when I kind of really started sweating like crazy, to the point that I had to wear sweatshirts to cover it up. And this was in California where, you know, it would hit the hundreds all the time. And I would just be in jeans and sweats because to me, it was better to have multiple layers of clothing on and be sweating to death underneath than to let anybody see my sweat. Like, I was just so embarrassed by it because nobody my age was sweating like that, especially females. Like, I didn't know any other girls that would have even like a glimmer of sweat. I can't tell you how many people I would have tell me that they never sweat ever, regardless of how much they worked out, and they wish they could have some of my sweat. And I was just like, I would gladly hand it over to you because I so much as think about the sun and I start sweating. So I was always in sweatshirts and anything that was thick enough to hide my sweat, and it made me just 10 times hotter. The worst was like towards the end of the school year because we weren't allowed to wear tank tops. Tank tops were the one thing I could kind of get away with because there was no fabric there, so you couldn't see that I was staining anything because there was nothing. But we weren't allowed to wear spaghetti straps, we weren't allowed to wear tank tops. And in California, where I lived, it would start to get hot towards the end of May, and we didn't finish school until June. So I had about a month worth of time that I would just be dying because I could not wear a tank top, but I didn't want anybody to see my sweat. So I would just be in all these heavy layers of clothing just melting. I can't tell you how many times I had friends come up to me and be like, "Aren't you hot in that?" And I was just so embarrassed by the whole thing. I was just like, no, like there was visible sweat going down my head and I was like, no, I feel fine. It's a little toasty, but like I'm comfortable like this. But really I was miserable and I was just sweating so much. And in those times when it was hot like that, it wasn't just my armpits, it was everything. My shirt would be absolutely soaked. There's no way it wouldn't be noticeable because the sweat would literally go all the way down my side. I'd get sweat on my stomach, kind of like I'm getting right now, except 10 times worse. I remember this one day I walked home, and by the time I got home, I had sweat through my shirt, I had sweat through my bra, I had sweat through the sweater, I had even sweat through my backpack. And I opened my backpack and I kid you not, I pulled out a piece of paper and it was ruined because I had drenched it in sweat. It was completely wet and had fallen apart. I was mortified. I was like, how did I sweat through this many layers of things? Like, the backpack has a thick cushion on the back. How did I sweat through that? And like my straps on my backpack were sweat. My bra was completely covered. I was just a mess. I could not stop sweating. So then it came to the point of, okay, what can I do to help this? Well, as it turns out, when it comes to hyperhidrosis, there's really not much you can do. So I remember my mom took me to the doctor and I told the doctor about my problems, and they prescribed me with this deodorant to put on under my armpits. So I did, and it actually worked really good. But there was one problem. It didn't do anything for BO. Absolutely nothing. So I wasn't sweating as much, but I sure didn't smell good. I will never forget this story. I was mortified. Long story short, I had a moment where I was upset at school, and it had something to do with I was giving a presentation, and I think my anxiety just kind of took over. So I started crying in front of everybody, and so they all felt bad and they all like came to give me a hug or whatever. And this one girl, she was quite a bit shorter than me, and she was my friend, and she came up to hug me, and when she hugged me, her face went right here, and I was just like, I was like, I'm wearing that deodorant that does not cover any BO, and it's like past the middle of the day, so I know it doesn't smell good, and I just always felt so bad for her. She didn't say anything, but there's no way she didn't smell anything. So I gave up on that deodorant because to me it was more embarrassing to smell bad than it was to be sweaty, and I could hide the sweat with my sweatshirt. So I just continued high school wearing a million layers and dying inside. But when I finally finished high school, I no longer had to adhere to the no spaghetti strap rule, and I also moved to Oregon where it's a much cooler temperature. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, a cooler temperature, you probably didn't sweat, right? Wrong. So here's the thing with hyperhidrosis. You don't need to be in a warm climate to sweat. For me personally, it does make me sweat more when I am in hot weather, and I do sweat a lot less when it's cooler, but I will still sweat in 50-degree weather. Even when I was living in California, if we had a cold day at school and I was walking down the hall, just walking from one classroom to the other during break, I would start sweating. So if I was moving, I didn't even have to be doing much, just a light walk, I would start sweating. Now sometime towards my like mid-20s is when I started sweating, not so much in the armpits, but just all over in general. And that's kind of where I'm at today. I now sweat equally pretty much everywhere. First place I usually get it is my forehead, my chest, and my stomach. The armpits still get it too, but not as bad as it used to be. But into adulthood, I feel like it's even got worse. Now, when I was in my early 20s is when Secret Clinical Strength was introduced. It's a deodorant that's designed to help with perspiration. And I remember sitting there, seeing the commercial, and it was like, do you sweat a lot? And I was like, yes. And it was like, have you tried other deodorants and they've all failed you? And I was like, yes. And they were like, introducing Secret Clinical Strength. And I was like, oh my God. I ran to the grocery store and I bought it. And it actually did help quite a bit. I noticed a huge difference. I've been using that deodorant ever since. And the difference was you were supposed to put it on at night, because I guess when you put it on at night, it's supposed to give you like soak into your skin or whatever. I don't know. And anytime I've tried another deodorant, as soon as I swipe it, I can just feel the sweat and I'm just like, bleh. So I stick with that deodorant. However, even with that deodorant, I still sweat like crazy, especially after I moved here to Florida. It honestly should be illegal to sweat as much as I do here. I mean, I know it's partly because of the humidity, but my God, I just sweat a stupid amount. I sweat in places I've never sweat before. I sweat on my feet, I sweat on my fingers, I just, head to toe, I will sweat and I don't have to do anything. And yes, before anybody says anything, yes, I know Florida is humid and everybody else sweats. But when I tell you, I have never been in a situation where I've seen somebody sweat the same amount as me, I mean it. I will go out somewhere and I will be just completely melted and covered. And I look around at the people around me to see if anybody else feels the same, and they are all dry. It doesn't make any sense. Disney is the perfect example. I'm surrounded by people who don't even live here and aren't used to the climate, and they're walking around in jeans and a sweater and they don't have an ounce of sweat on their body. And then there will be me. I will just be soaked beyond reason. I think it's a combination of my anxiety and my hormones, because the problem didn't start until puberty, and for the most part I really only sweat when it's hot outside. But I have had incidents where I was just super anxious and I just started sweating like crazy. Like I remember in beauty school, whenever I would get a client, I would get so nervous and I would have to excuse myself and go to the back room, open up the freezer and stick my head in, because I would just be completely drenched in sweat for no reason. Like I wasn't doing anything. I was just standing there and I would be drenched in sweat. About a year ago, I decided to finally go to a dermatologist and be like, can you help me? Because at that point, I had tried creams that were supposed to help. I tried anything I could and nothing was getting the job done. So the dermatologist was actually the one that told me about the two different types of hyperhidrosis. And one thing she said is that when it's all over, like what I have, one of the main culprits for that is hormones. And if any of you have been watching me for a while, or if you know me in real life, you would know that my hormones are trying to ruin my life all day, every day, and that they're completely jacked up. Hence my PMDD and endometriosis. And actually, after she said that, one thing I started to notice is right before my period, I would sweat even more than I normally do. It was like I already would sweat a lot no matter what, but it was like before my period, it was just like pouring off my body, especially when I would go to the gym. It would just be like dripping off me and onto the floor. It was disgusting. So the dermatologist decided she wanted to do blood work to see if anything came up with my hormones or anything. And if everything was fine, she would put me on this one prescription. So I went and got my hormones tested, and of course, like always, everything came back normal. But that meant that I was okay for the medication she wanted to put me on. So she prescribed me, I think it's oxybutynin or something. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But anyways, the whole point of that medication is it's supposed to dry you up and help you not sweat as much. Sounds great, right? Well, the problem with this medication is it doesn't only dry up your sweat. It targets any area that is like known to produce moisture. Your eyes, your bladder, your mouth. And for me, I started having issues with a dry tongue. When I first started using it, it did seem like it helped a little bit, but I never got to use it for a long period of time because it would just dry my tongue out so bad and I just couldn't handle it. And it was like it didn't matter how much water I drank. If I like tried to suck on like a little candy or something, like my tongue would not stop being dry. And once I had my surgery in January, I kind of was just like, whatever, I'll get back on it later. I'll try it again. So I actually recently started doing it again. I'm taking half of the dosage I'm supposed to take and trying to ease back into it. But I've heard people say that you kind of have to get used to it and get over that funk. So I'm trying to get back into it and then slowly increase to the dose I'm supposed to be on and see if that helps. And that's kind of where I am now, trying to just get used to the medication again, which brings us to what type of treatments are there for hyperhidrosis. So there's not a whole lot. There's no cure, but there are treatments. The main one that most people know about is Botox. I've never tried Botox, so I honestly can't speak on it too much, but I know that is one treatment option, and I've always been kind of tempted by it, but I've never tried it. I think there's also a surgery you can get or something. I'm not totally sure. But another treatment option that I actually just learned about not that long ago, it's called DermaDry, and they actually saw one of my videos where I was sweating like a crazy beast and sent me the product. So thank you guys so much for that. I have been so bad about trying to do it. They sent it to me like right when I was starting my new job and like my schedule was crazy busy, so I haven't had a chance to like use it consistently, but I think it's a really cool tool. I've seen a lot of people talk about it and like say it worked really good for them, so I was actually looking into it before they even reached out to me. And so when they did, I was like, yes, I will take the DermaDry machine. And that one is specifically for your hands, your feet, or your armpits, which I honestly don't sweat a whole lot on my hands or my feet. Those are kind of the last places I sweat, and I only really sweat there if it's like 10,000 degrees outside and I'm just completely drenched everywhere else. However, My armpits are a pretty big sweating spot. Even though it's not as intense as it was when I was a teenager, I do still sweat quite a bit on the armpits, so I am going to try doing the treatment on the armpits. I just need to get into a better schedule of it. But I'll show you guys a little bit how that machine works right here. So this right here is the machine that was sent to me. Thank you so much, DermaDry. I'm so excited. As you can see, it is mainly for hands, feet, or armpits. I've already used it a couple times, but like I said earlier, I am terrible at doing it continuously. But I'm really hoping this month I'm gonna try using it consistently so I can see how it works. But this is what the actual machine looks like. You can turn it on like this and it shows you what part it is working on. This is the level, I guess, and that is how long it goes for. And then so once you start it, it goes down from 15 and the whole treatment is 15 minutes long. Now it does come with a bunch of different things for depending on what body part you're doing. So I believe this is for like the hands and feet. If you're doing the armpits though, you put this on to this little thing and then put that, hey, and then you would put that under your armpits. You do have to wet them first before you put them on here, but then once you do, that's how you do the treatment, and then you just right under there. You're always supposed to do it on clean, dry skin, and since I just took a shower, I might as well just do it, right? All right, we've got them on, so now we just put them under my armpits. I look like I'm breastfeeding or like pumping or something. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just like that, we're done. You're supposed to do that for a couple days, a week, for a few weeks, and that's when you start seeing results. But like I said, I've been terrible about it, but I'll keep you guys updated. So yeah, that is kind of my story with hyperhidrosis and where I am right now. I'm trying to get used to the oxybutynin, I think that's how you say it, and trying to get better about the DermaDry. Once I get better about those, I will do another video updating you guys about that. But I just wanted to make this video to kind of like give awareness to this problem and just show other people that might have it that they're not alone. I think the worst part about it too is the people who don't have it don't understand how terrible it can be and how embarrassing it is to just be sweating nonstop for no reason, and it makes you feel disgusting. And like, especially me being a female who's in the beauty industry, it's just like, I hate that I'll just start sweating like crazy. Yeah, that's my video on hyperhidrosis, and I will continue to talk more about it in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I want to say thank you for 1,000 subscribers. I have been working for years trying to hit that number. I still need the watch hours before I can be monetized, but I'm pretty excited about the 1,000 because I've literally, it's been like 4 years since I uploaded my first video. But thank you so much. Talk to you later. Bye. And freaking bugs. By the way, I hope an alligator doesn't decide to come out and grab me, because this is where I always see them around here. And what? There's a bee. I'm trying to record, man. Living next to an airport, I swear. Also, can I just say I'm highly offended that literally any other time I make a video, I'm sweating head to toe. But the one time I make a video about how much I sweat, I'm not sweating as bad as I normally do.